Welcome to tonight's I&E Network broadcast. My name is Lou Jensen, and we've been getting together for the last 7 years with internet video capability. And welcome to all of you that are in the show. I'm so thrilled because we have a full show every week, and then we've got about 100 who are paying attention to us on the outside for each of the shows. So it's getting a little bigger, getting a little more involved all the time, and I think we're doing a little better at figuring out how to make this new medium work and spread the gospel, if you will, of a way for artists to kind of change their relationship with the marketplace. When I started the Inspiration and Encouragement Network, the idea was that we would discover that we had some ability, do whatever it took to develop that ability, then master that ability, and then eventually learn to share it on a better basis. And I'm going to kind of prove that to you tonight a little bit in the show, that we've been making that gradual progress almost without realizing. Just the participation of it is changing the overall exposure of all of us. It's been my feeling and theory for a long time, based off of Gary Price's logo that uses our logo for the I&E Network, is those connected hands. The sculpture that Gary produced years ago is called Synergy. And if there's anything out there that tells me how business works, it's always who you know, not what you know, that makes it successful. And the developing and the growing of those relationships that just cross all social media. Everybody's just jumping up and down on relationship marketing, for crying out loud. And we've been pushing the relationship marketing button for now. It really does make the overall difference. Tammy sold some kits lately clear across the world. They're finding us, they're bumping into us, but invariably the concept that comes up is, I like how you guys are with each other. They're now getting a chance to see us somewhat more in action. And if there's anything I'm proud of, it's the fact that I can interact with any one of you on any given day and know that I'm going to be able to get some help if I need it, and I hope to be able to give you help back if you need it. And so those kinds of options are what we're trying to build. I want to go up and open up my my screen and get my show going tonight. Somebody let me know if we've got Success Mountain up. First slide.
Yes, we do. You got it.
Okay, bingo. Had a tough time today with the show. Talked with Ron this morning and visiting a little bit about how things are working and what we're seeing and how the opportunity is beginning to show up a little more all the time. And I've kind of invested in what I think is here, about 1 day a week for 7 years to put this show together. And it really, some shows just come together so well, and others just really are a challenge, and today's been quite a challenge. It's so interesting, like Jose's talking about what he's involved in now and all the other things. His life goes on, even with this massive project in his life. This is leading then to even more carving. So this is just kind of the beginning step for him, for that massive job for that wealthy guy in Texas. And so that, plus getting the publishing done, getting the television stuff done, he is just busy right now. And yet life goes on too. And so you have to constantly pay attention to the fact that
thanks a lot.
Somebody's got their microphone on that's stepped into the
Joni has her mic on. She's got to turn it off.
Joni, can you catch that? There you go. So as we move into finding your way and looking how to, basically, when you start with not much, and none of us have enough money to throw at PR, public relations. Really wealthy people hire public relations people to do this job for them. But an artist has to figure out entrepreneurially how to make it happen without having to pay for it. So you really are struggling with what goes on here. How in the world can I move in a direction that actually really does help me? I put this slide up last week because I wanted to remind you again today that this was my first shot at Canva. And if you haven't jumped on Canva yet, canva.com, you really need to go take a look at this. It's like everything else we've learned here. You've got to learn each step at a time, and it isn't a slam dunk, but it's awfully easy to create really good looking images that then you can post up on your site. I've noticed a lot of you are posting just damn near anything you can get your hands on, and I think that's a mistake. I spent quite a bit of time with a member yesterday discussing this very issue, because what you've got to remember is Google is picking up every word you post and the words that describe the image that you post. And they identify you by what you've put up there. So if you're talking about your favorite foods, or you're posting your trip to have your dog fixed, those aren't good choices for putting up on the post on the stream. I don't think it's a matter of posting anything just so you can be up there on the stream. Images, if you don't have enough to put in, then you've got to kind of design some things like this, and this is somewhat free. It does cost a little. Most of these images cost me between $1 and $3 to put the way I do them the way I wanted, and then to post them up. So you have to kind of decide what you're going to be able to put out on the stream and see, basically, is this beginning to work? But be really careful about what you're posting and saying, because that's how Google is beginning to read who you are, okay? The most amazing thing going on is Google senses a connection between all of us fairly fast. And I'm just thrilled with that. I just cannot get over how much capacity is there if we can harness it, if we can learn how to use it. So last time we talked about how are you doing. I asked you the questions. Now we're talking about what you're doing. And we're going to try and see if we can't pursue this subject and concept a little bit more tonight. I posted another community yesterday, and it's going to be digital journaling. I'm really intrigued with the fact that I can take things from the stream, from digital, or from the digital images, and put them over in my own file now, do my own journal, and manage it so quickly and so easily. So I'm going to keep coming up with this subject. We pick up a few people every week that don't know who we are or what we're doing, and so I'm going to keep nudging this journaling idea. Some of you are just plain slow and are dropping the ball and not getting this in place, but I'm also going to post over there and teach you step by step exactly what to do. Now, I also designed the cover for that community here on Canva, and I put my own picture into it. Then I found a cloud sunset picture and just stuck that stuff into it. And man, it's so fast and so easy to do. And I think it's a matter of learning how to use the tools that everybody's kind of stumbling onto in the same process. Isn't that what the stream really represents? They've got this answer and this answer and this answer. This morning, Ron and I visited for a minute, and it was so interesting when I opened the stream up first thing this morning. There was the post here that Ron had put up about listening and how important it is to listen to your individual customers. Then the very next post was Al's, and Al put up his bronze. It's also called listening. And then a short time later, Jay put up his post about listening. And we commented how unusual things like this really are. it's just almost like, hey, pay attention. It's when it shows up in your life and you see it over and over again. Isn't that something that perhaps then we should really start to pay attention? I think all this is a beginning for us. And as you find out what, Ron and I chewed this around quite a while, trying to decide what's the significance. Is that just a hammer right in the forehead saying, Lewis, sorry, you're not very good at listening? Because I get that quite a bit. And I think I listen, but then I find out that I haven't. And I'll suspect that that's probably true for most of us. We think we got a handle on it, but we maybe don't. And so when it comes up like this, then this is the stuff I'm talking about. Now, these three graphic images, this one and Al's and this one, are not going to go anywhere because they're in my journal now. Put them in my journal. And I put them in my journal this way, so I remember more what's actually there. I went in and fixed them a little, added some commentary to them, and then stuck them over in that journal. And so now I can go down through that stream at any given time, just really easy, and pull everything back up into my life that really starts to make a difference. This was footage that I shot when Robin was here a year ago for her first class with Craig. And they were working on a discovery piece, which is the clay in the background here, and then they were beginning to try and fashion out the difference between how she's been trained to think as an artist and how Craig has basically taught himself how to think as an artist. And it's the most fascinating exchange. When I pull that piece up and throw it out on the table for you, you're gonna love it. And after we'd been filming for 2 days over at the studio, came out in the parking lot, and here's this drop-dead gorgeous brand new Corvette sitting there, and then look at the license plate on it. It's called Grandpa. Oh man, I just loved it. And I just happen to have an Android phone that takes really good photographs really fast. You don't have to be encumbered and fiddle with the Apple stuff and dig around. I got this job done really, really quickly and pulled it into my life, and that then went over in my journal as well. Now, I played last weekend with the idea of nudging how much longer it would take me to get over 500,000 views. And I nudged it a little bit more than I normally do, but I shoved it 7,000 in a week instead of just 2,000. And that to me is an interesting thing. No one can explain what that really means yet. It's to me, it just measures a degree of visibility. That you on Google Plus are getting this kind of visibility. I think this is much more significant because someone has had to lock you in. They have seen your avatar, hovered over it, brought them to here, and then they decided here, right from here, usually, do I want to pay attention to this person for whatever reason? And then they mark you in their computer profile as someone they want to follow. And I think as we look at what we're doing and see how we're doing it, and we're getting a little better at doing it all the time, you should start to realize what is happening here, okay? Debbie, could you come on for a second and tell everybody about your experience with posting it? You put your paint can over on Facebook?
Okay. Last Friday, I posted the recent milk can that had the trotting horse on Facebook, and within a half hour, I had over 120 likes maybe, and came back 3 hours later, and I had over 250 likes. Then I decided I'm on a equine group as well, so I thought, well, I'm going to post it over there. Most of those folks are watercolor and oil painters, and so I put the milk can over there, and I checked it today, and I have over 30 looks at that as well. and have already had had an inquiry from the state of Delaware for a man to share my post to share the milk can with his standard bred breeders. So,
Wow.
Possibly get some more inquiries or more jobs from that.
Great. So what you've done, Deb, is you've discovered a tool of exposure here. Now what we're trying to learn together is, okay, where can we monetize that? Rather than just big numbers so you can make money off of advertising that Google would then put in your life because you've got a lot of people looking at you. I don't want to bother with that quite yet. I don't trust it, first of all. So what I'm looking more is saying, well, when I first started to sell an eggshell, I had to learn how to do that. Then I got the drill done, and then I had to learn to try and sell it. And the drill itself did not sell well until I discovered putting it in a kit. And as soon as I had a package with some training added into that package, then all of a sudden I had something that actually would sell, and then it just exploded. And I'm kind of hopeful that that's what we're really playing with here as a group. We're learning the tools and tricks of the trade. In Cracker Barrel, they've got this T-shirt up, and then they got all kinds of Father's Day stuff now that Mother's Day is over with. Now they're moving towards Father's Day. And so what I'm trying to do is see if I can't figure out how to put all that into place. Hang on a second. I got Elena's right here. Let me see if I can take this, guys. She still can't get in. Okay, I've made the switch. Go ahead. Are you there, Elena? Can you hear me? It stopped. I don't know what's going on there. Does it look like I'm going over onto YouTube? Can anybody pull up YouTube and see if it's live over there? Maybe I did something by how I launched it tonight. Okay, coming back to this kind of an image. When I'm attracted to something like this on this T-shirt, I'm not thinking of a fishing pole. I'm thinking of everything we do with tools. But I like how the graphics are done. I like how the layout is done. It's obviously very appealing. Somebody has put it on a T-shirt, and someone has sold it to Cracker Barrel. So it's in the marketplace. It's in the economy, and it's working to some degree. It wouldn't be there if it wasn't.
Lou?
Yeah, Mel?
YouTube's not broadcasting.
Well, I launched it.
Well, I don't know.
Well, you're the wizard here. What's going on?
I guess I didn't hold my tongue right.
I've got it. It says it's live. I don't see anything else. Anything else I can do?
Nothing you can do.
Normally it does. It goes right to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
There's no setting. Maybe there's a setting for that.
Your connection is not broadcasting. It says live video broadcast will begin soon. So,
well, let's go back and push another setting button like Nick had me do earlier. Nope, that's...
Don't knock your broadcast out.
Okay. Oh, shoot. I don't know. I don't know how to fix that. No.
The other thing we can do is continue on and see if it picks up and broadcasts.
Wraps it up. Post it later. Yeah. Yeah, let's try that. There's Nick. Okay, Nick, come on.
Yes, you are on YouTube.
You are watching it? What happened to you?
I started messing with the gears and dropped off.
Okay.
I couldn't get back in.
Okay. That's the same dilemma we have all the time. You start touching buttons and messing with things, it can send you out and you never can get back in. Okay, Nick says it's over. We'll go from there then. Thanks, Nick.
Yep.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Mel says thanks, Nick. All right. So I think the really significant thing is when you find this kind of stuff, this helps you find your way. When it's appealing to you and you notice it strong enough that it's making you think in different directions, then that's an image that's like a sign. It's like a marker on the highway. You know, in Utah, when we get the snow in, we get all these little, they put these little light reflectors on the end of poles so that no matter how much snow we get, they can still see where the edge of the road is. And it helps guide them. And I'm trying to help you see that when you put stuff like this, these little images that are appealing out of the, I usually have between 80 and 120 slides a show. And it defies me that there's not some of the slides that I put into my show that aren't really appealing to you, because they're really appealing to me. And if they are appealing to you, but you don't capture them, you don't put them over into your journal, then they don't influence you anymore. It just goes right in one ear and out the other. And I think this is the one thing that I've done, is to help me look at those kinds of things. Now, published, we've got another follow-up to Tammy's 699 discussion that's going out on the newsletter right away. And if you're not getting those newsletters now, we're trying to do them on a more regular basis. Please call Shannon at the 800 number tomorrow and double check your email address is current and everything's okay. And everybody says, well, that's your job to make sure that it is all right, but often we don't know, or you don't know, in both directions we don't know there isn't a connection. And so you're missing out on some things if you'll just make sure that they've got the right email plugged into. We use MailChimp. It's one of those paid mail organizations, or email organizations, and so they're the ones that kind of do it for us. Can't get you, can't pick you up, Elena. I don't know what's going on there, babe. She's trying to pull me into a video call and I can't even pick it up. I want to talk more about what Steve has contributed. Visited with him on the phone last week and discussed what we're doing here and what I'm going to show you right now. Because what I'm going to show you is really subtle stuff. But it's the part that a really high level of productivity will give you. You'll do more of it, and you get a little better at it, and you can see more opportunity. And this is what I'm talking about, really subtle things. Steve likes to do scrimshaw, and came down and took a couple of classes from Craig. He's got a lot of source for fossilized ivory from Alaska that he can do his scrimshanding on, but he's learned how to do it with a power tool instead of hand scribing it, which is up to productivity as well as made it quite a bit easier for him to do. But what he stumbled onto was taking the regular 699 burr, and you can see, some of you have never even seen this close-up of a 699. You see how the flutes are beveled here, and then they come to this point on the end. That's a 1/2 millimeter in there usually, and 4 millimeters, or a 1/4 millimeter here, and 4 millimeters long. So we know in dentistry that's about right in there is when you got to start worrying about where your nerves are inside that tooth. And then they have tapered fissures. This is a tapered one, but then they have tapered fissured burrs, which have little nicks along here, what basically make these little more chisels. They're like a plane. And so when you put that burr in that high-speed handpiece and rotate it like that, you get all kinds of cutting action. But Steve discovered that he could take the burr, leave it in the drill, and rub it against a diamond surface and take that point right down to a sharp needle edge point. So he literally, with the drill rotating, taking it off with a diamond whetstone, will allow you to sharpen it basically, and yet it still remains really hard. It's a piece of carbide in there. Now, when we tell people to do this, a lot of people will make the decision, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it any old way I can. So they'll literally take damn near the worst tools they can find, because those are cheap and they're inexpensive. They'll go to Harbor Freight, buy themselves a diamond file. I bought this file over there, and it was like $6. It's so coarse, it's unbelievable. I mean, you couldn't even do a good job of sharpening your fingernails with something like this, except we'll try it and see, well, I think I can make that work. There's an easier way to sharpen this thing, and some of you have a slow speed and high speed. And what I'm going to do this year is show you these magical combinations of high speed and low speed, and our tools all have tremendous concentricity. We use them at a higher rate and a higher degree of productivity, and yes, they cost more money. But you'll someday figure out that it's really, things are priced about where the perception of value and efficacy is. And so a tool like this on a slow speed diamond here, this rotary disc, you can come up with this rotating and this rotating, and you can just literally sharpen, take that right down to a point with the two tools rotating. And a tremendous amount of control to do that, okay? But I'm going to show you one little trick here that I almost never hand out, so this is top secret tonight. Do not post this. If I see this show up on the stream, I'll have a heart attack, okay? This is my gift to you. Years ago, we had a guy from Japan whose dad owned all these. They had a big company that did the wood carving in Japan. And they came in, and they literally, when they get it about to this point, then they come in and file it back off and sharpen it from about this angle into another point. And they make little tiny cutting flutes right on the head of that burr. Now, if you're going to do that and put them on there, then how to do that is just really, really an interesting task. And Tammy has this smaller grade, higher grade diamond whetstone. We've used it and sold it for a long time, and if you get a hold of her, she's got it in the store. It costs a little more. I don't know, I think it's $10 or so, but you just got to remember that some of these little subtle things, if you're going to try and put this fancy little bevel on the end of the 699, you're going to have to approach it with a little more care and concern than you are just quick and dirty. It is not going to work. So if you look right down the head of the shaft like this, they take a file and put 4 bevels on the edge here that make this cut. Okay, then they come in and they bevel right across the edge of that point right there, and they bevel one more cut here, and that brings that right to a point on the end of the burr. So are you with me? It's one side here flat, one side here flat, one side here flat, one side here. Then they come in and cross bevel it here, 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 and here. Now what that does is put little tiny micro flutes on the very head of that 699. I don't mind telling you, it's really tricky. You're probably going to have to do it with a microscope or with a, I don't think you can even see it with loops, but you can theoretically put it in. And what I do is, instead of trying to go for 4 sides, which is just a bugger, you can do a 3/32 burr shaft size nicely. You can see exactly what's going on. But you come down to a 1/16 inch high-speed cutter and you just cannot see it to save you. Then what I do is put 3 bevels on. Instead of doing all those other cuts, I just try and make 3 even, consistent bevel cuts on 3 sides of the shaft. And then that leaves me 3 blades. And 3 blades at really high speed work extremely well, okay? Now, the idea is that if you're going to do something tiny, and you can do little tiny lines or little tiny dots, and all the stuff that Craig and Robin are now doing on metal, knife metal, and on gun metal, we're going to start using this little cutter more and more and more. And I want you to give it a go. I want you to learn it's a very, very tiny little flutes. There almost aren't cutting flutes. They're not as deep right through here as most cutting flutes would be, but they're enough with high-speed rotary to make that work, okay? So when I do my Google community and I'm putting things up, what I'm trying to do is teach with that community. You're trying to see with a community if you can draw new people into what we're doing as a group with a community. Lance, can you come on quick and let us know how many are in your gun carving community now?
Yeah, currently I think I'm at 123.
Okay.
It's been bouncing back and forth, one or two back and forth the other, one way or another, but that's where I've been pretty consistently for the last few weeks.
Okay. So now it's a matter of deciding, okay, what next now will grow it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where will it grow? What kinds of things will draw people into that? And that's where I think we then all contribute. Because if you think about it for any length of time, you'll come up with some ideas and suggestions for Lance that he could probably give a try. I'm certainly hoping that everybody who's on the show or listening to the show has got onto Lance's community and made a post and made a contribution. Isn't most people contributing?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of contributions. The more the merrier with that, you know, because if the owner of the community is the only one posting, it gets a little bit boring, I think, for people looking at it. I think that they'd like to see a little variety,
yeah,
and few more ideas, whether they're, especially, for example, with gunstock carving, whether they're something that's an antique or something you just did, you know, anything.
Yeah, it's just interesting how it is a giant fish hook. You're trying to launch it out into the stream to 500 million people on Google Plus, and you're trying to snag their interest your way. And so it will be a matter of seeing, well, what kinds of things can I do? Have you thought about doing a giveaway?
I hadn't even thought of that. I don't even know how to approach something like that.
Let's take a look at doing a pattern. You could put a pattern up.
Okay.
In a pattern way. And then what they do is they connect with you and ask for the pattern, and then you can email it to them. I think it'll work. I think there's a way to set that up and make it work. Those are the tricks. Those are the things that say, well, okay, I'm going to post and I'm going to entertain and I'm going to play with people. But at some point, you want a call to action. You want to call or qualify at some point everybody that's participating with you to the point that you can then draw them in to what you're doing. And most are not doing that on Google. On all the communities I've seen, all it is a post. It's just like, well, we think similar, so I'm going to put something up, and then you put something up, and then we all get to look at it together. But most who are playing with it as a business are trying to figure out how in the world do we trigger it into some kind of a purchase. So as we find our way, the whole idea here is not to be timid, not to have it scare you off, not to have it push you away. The most significant thing that happens to all of us is we get the decision, we get the idea, it crosses our brain, and then we forget to get to it, or we never do. And if this digital journal thing is something you've left out of the equation, or you're not using it much yet, please rethink that. Come back to it, look at it, put it into place for yourself, because I guarantee you, you're going to see things from your journal collecting that you didn't realize about yourself before. Very, very, very helpful stuff. Every time you cross paths with somebody else or some other idea or some other concept that you don't gather that and then push that into your own individual life, I think you're making a really, really big mistake. It's so interesting that Google can see these threads of interest between all of us, and then often we don't see it ourselves. Google is dropping us in front of each other all the time for a reason. It's because of what we've already done or pursued on Google already. When we were at Cracker Barrel having lunch, Cracker Barrel has about 1,000 stores now, and they're the #1 retailer of these kinds of things in their little storefronts. And in every Cracker Barrel, there's these racks of cards. And I found out their story years ago, and I followed it ever since because I thought, well, they figured out something really unique and have competed in a very, very difficult market niche. You're going to take on Hallmark and the bigger card-producing companies. You better have your ducks in a row because they're extremely good. But Blue Mountain Press literally ran the whole thing. And the story is so cute. Just a great story. These two kids were just newlyweds, and they married in, I think, Boston. And she worked for the government doing some big fancy job, and he was a nuclear scientist. And they went on a journey to Colorado, and ended up in Boulder, and just fell in love with Colorado. And says, let's stay. Let's just stay here. Let's make our life here. Instead of going back and digging into what we thought we were going after, let's redo our lives here and take another path. And she liked to compose and do the writing, and he liked to do the graphics and the layout, so they did some greeting cards. And they spent one whole year putting these cards all together and designing them and making sets of them. Then they got in their little old truck with a camper shell on it, and they spent 3 months of the summer going and visiting different retailing outlets that would then sell their cards with these racks just like this. Now, I wouldn't even dare guess how many racks they've got out now, but last I checked, they had 300 salespeople full-time placing their products. They're extremely successful, and everywhere you go, you're going to see Blue Mountain Art stuff. And they've done an incredibly good job of moving over and playing with the digital competition of things that have happened as well. Now, once you know this story that's kind of behind the Blue Mountain Arts, and then you put it in your journal and track it for a little while, everything they do will begin to influence you from a different perspective. And instead of something that you'd view with just a casualness, now you go, these guys are climbing the same mountain that you're thinking about climbing. And they're extremely good at touching the buttons of human relationship marketing. These guys, they've got it down in spades. You couldn't succeed if you didn't know the buttons to push. And I think it's the same thing we talk about often, is that when you hear someone else's success, instead of ending that, put it into your journal and say, if they can do it, so can I. There's got to be something here that I could begin to do that would help pull me into a position. And all they did is stay with it longer. Convinced of that. You think their business has not had its ups and downs? Sure it has. Every business, every person goes through those periods when things go so great you can't hardly believe it. And then they go through periods where it's just almost so bad you can't hardly believe it. And that's how it is. But most of us, we either bite off way too much or we don't chew our food long enough. And the whole idea here is to stay with the concept long enough and to where it begins to be your thing too. Okay? Now, Joni, I want to talk tonight, as soon as we get done with my slides here. We're nearly finished with the slides. We're going to talk about you and your circumstance a little bit specifically. And as I was going through this last almost 10 days, I found this slide, and the second I saw it, I thought of Joni Beck. And the second I thought of Joni Beck, I went, they call it a flower carrier, and it's a handmade basket, and they teach you how to make it, and it's a video tutorial how to do that. But I went way past that, and I went to a dream carrier, because we're all trying to consider who you are and what it is you have yet to trade now that you have already done. Kind of the things that have been really, really significant in your life, your better memories, your better products, the things that you enjoy doing the most, is exactly where I think you should stay. And yet I thought, well, something simple like this is usually a beginning of a concept. Might not be where it ends up, but it sure felt good to me to begin with, because I'm looking. I'm trying to figure out something that would then help her now to go with what should she aim at, what could she target at. And the second you start feeling this direction thing, you just start saying, ooh, yeah, I really like that. Ron's been on this crusade for quite a while now, this last little while, and he's beginning to discover more and more why he's gone in the direction that he's gone. For a long time, you've not seen all the potential you're seeing now, have you, Ron?
No, I haven't. Others have seen it in me, but I haven't seen it in myself.
So if you pass that same sentiment on to Joni Beck, do you think she struggles with the same issue?
Absolutely. I know she does.
So is it not possible here now that the melting of the minds, the mixture of all of us and our own considerations, might help her see something of value now that she's basically created by all the years of her life and participation in the world of art? And I think that's exactly what we're talking about now. There's opportunity all over the place. We just don't see it ourselves. And as we start helping each other see it and take advantage of it, then all of a sudden this together thing gets significantly different. I don't know about you, but I have enjoyed our mixture when we get on the web like this about as much as anything that's happened in all these years of doing business. I spent the last 2 days with Craig and Robin. Craig has just done a new carving, and Robin did the finishing of it. And we filmed every second of it. And it's an intermediate. It's not the most advanced stock carving, but it's definitely going to push most of you quite a bit. And we're going to make it available and get it produced now. And I've got the raw footage done, so now the work part really begins. But it was the most enjoyable thing for me to put the camera on these two and capture those moments while Craig's doing the carving. It's of all his 60 patterns that he licenses to network people to do gun stocks with, this is the #1 demand pattern that he has. And when he puts this on, he's carved it on everything from metal to glass to steel to bone, but it belongs on a gun stock. And we found a piece of cherry. You almost never see a gun stock out of cherry. So we went at it because it was hard. And you're going to see every cut, every movement, everything that Craig does to carve to begin with. But then Robin has pulled in here, because of her years in art, she's pulling in a finishing tactics that just change the look dramatically. So just pops it like crazy. And I've also filmed her contribution. So we put this package together because it's in a very advanced kind of approach to what we've been doing with the Powergraver for years, but it's going to now be something that I think will lift every one of your skills that want to play, that are interested in playing in this kind of carved, particular relief carved area. And as I watched them do their thing and realized that they've come so far from where they were to where they are now, and the really valuable thing they have to trade in the marketplace is what they've learned how to do. And then I've got the magazine right here it's called Garage Style Magazine. And I want you to notice who is the photographer. Booker Preston has picked up a camera and is doing extremely well with it, and he has this cover of that magazine that he photographed. And this was a guy's car collection, and Booker got to go photograph it, and then they used it for the article in the magazine. He dropped a copy off to Tam at the company, and I snagged it. And when I sit and watch each of you do things that are unique to you, that begin to show your mastery and your skill, and then we have now a medium, we have a vehicle now to put you up in front of the world stage, and then all of us beat the drum and wave the flag for each other. You just can't do it any better than that. And if you can see, you watch the kinds of things that Booker's eye captures, and he puts his camera to it, and then they put it together in this visual kind of medium. After a while, you're going to begin to sense more and more about who Booker Preston is as an artist, and the kinds of things that he enjoys and the kinds of things that he does. And just like Blue Mountain Arts, just like Craig, just like Robin Colson, just like Ron, just like Mel, you begin to see what others are doing, and that then should in turn begin to influence you, because a cover is really something to get in your lifetime. I would make it put it on your bucket list. At some point you're going to make a cover of some major magazine, okay? We got a story about Harold in the magazine. And so instead of just thumbing through and look at the pictures in the magazine, I'm trying to plead with you to dig out opportunity in every magazine you can get your hands on. Because if you'll spend a little bit of time matching what you do with what they do, the odds of you finding some way to get published in a magazine is extremely high. And these guys represent some automotive artist every time they publish this magazine. And it happens to be Harold this time. And Harold does the old car modified images of the old cars that we all grew up with, us older guys. And when you get this kind of a pop in this kind of a magazine, it goes on down the road with you from now on. It's something that you get then to use to represent yourself and push yourself on into the marketplace anymore. And this was on the cover of the title of this one whole ad in that magazine. I want you to look very carefully right here. Favorite car enthusiast. Now, I think that boils down the substance. Those are the key words for this entire magazine. And what you have to figure out is, what words would I use that then represent what I do? Who's the enthusiast that I'm after? And then you realize that once you figure this out and you stay right on that button, you've got more chance and more opportunity to succeed than if you're all over the place still. I've got quite a few of you that I'm moving really close to being masters now. And almost without exception, all of you are still trying a little of this and trying a little of that and a little over here and a little way over there. And there isn't this same degree of focus. And I guarantee you, when you figure out this key words of, if I'm trying to be an enthusiast and a supporter of what kind of concept? You plug in calligraphy there for Ken Brown. So you see what you're starting to look at. And when I spot this like this, that goes into my damn journal. Because that's my problem too. That's the very area where we all struggle the most, is we're just kind of so far all over the place that we don't even see the individual opportunity. The last cover 4 on this magazine, and I apologize, the photographs is crappy. This is the cities where this Meekum bunch, they do auctions for old antique car restoration stuff. These are all old shell gasoline pumps and oil gauges and things, and they sell them at auctions. And there's 4 major car shows in these 4 major cities. This is Oklahoma City, Houston. What is that last one? You can't really read it. And I thought, well, if I was nudging, because I nudged this world for a while. I went after the automotive engraving thing pretty aggressive for 4 or 5 years. And I went after popular cars, mostly hot rods. And I did it because of Macmillan Publishing. They kind of led me right into it. But man, I would be at these 4 shows. If that was my world, I would kill to figure out a way to be in those four shows, because these guys are not small, and if they figured out those are important exposure moments, then that's what I'm going to start targeting and try to do. Maybe I can only do 1 this year, but I can sure do 2 next year, and maybe all 4 of them the next year. You literally just, these are like those sign markers along the highway showing you where the road is. And it's what you notice that you then begin to pay attention to. I had a full-page ad on the best nighttime attraction in Monterey this August is going to be a world-class automotive film and arts festival. And oh, damn, I just hate to have an excuse to go to Monterey. And unfortunately, I found out I'm going to Canada the 25th of July, so I'm going to barely be home in time from Canada, and I'm going to have to maybe go to Monterey. But man, you mix film and cars together and then start thinking about that whole upscale marketing series that we went through, and it begin to dawn on you that playing with old cars and the film industry and stuff and engraving, custom engraving in Monterey would be just about as good a fishing hole as you could probably find. And look at the graphic that they used for this year's show. So those become opportunities, and it's always, I don't know if I can take advantage of it, but damn it, if you don't put it over into your journal and start working on it, you for sure are not going to ever pull this into your life. There has to be something there that you can begin to help promote yourself with, and those images that would promote your content are the things that are most appealing to you, are then thus most appealing to your own customers and your potential customers as well. It helps you find your way, but you've got to capture them. You've got to put them in some one place where they'll then start to rub off, okay? We are getting stronger and stronger, and as these kinds of things keep coming into the picture and the perspective, we're going to start working more on YouTube and our exposure with our individual channels and the matching of that, because Google owns Google, and Google owns Gmail, and Google owns YouTube. So you don't think they're not going to promote all 3 and the combination of all 3 of those tools. That's why we're here. Should make a big difference. I want you to see something. Al just posted his banner and his profile on Google+. Just got that done, but I want you to look how plain and how really attractive that is. And he sized it well. Just about every one of your banners are off. The size doesn't match, and so the writing is overpowered and goes off of the edges. And I want you to go back to darker banners. These banners that promote you, and you had your name over here. You don't want them to be white with black. You want to reverse that whole thing and come with a dark image and lighter verbiage, and very little of it. But look what's happened already. Okay, I don't think he's even been on a week, but he's jumped to 82 followers and 5,500 views. Now, all of us, when we get done with the show tonight, I'd like every one of you to go find Al and follow him. If you haven't already, just type in your search button, put in Al Hohn, show you how quickly you can find him, and every one of you mark in your little search bar, follow. Follow and connect with Al Hohn for me. Would you do that? Then I know all of you are posting and going with his posts. Mary Hohn is Al's wife, does a pet blog, and they went to a big conference about pet blogging in Las Vegas last week, and then they just got home Monday, and we were visiting about how well Mary has done with her pet blog. She has Roxy, the traveling dog, and so if you can link up and move her numbers a little too, I think we should try and support that as much as we can as well. And the whole deal here is your support of them is then going to in turn reflect back and support and help you. It will teach you what to do and how to do it here. And when you begin to realize the strength of what's growing, and I realize it's all relatively new and it's a little tricky to figure things out, but we are learning together and we're getting much, much better at it. But let's not fix these things that need to be fixed along the way, okay? You kind of see the kind of work that Al has done for a very long time, and then realize how close you are to someone who has the same kind of skill level. I think that influences your own skills. At least it should nudge your desire to do better and better and better work till you're at the absolute peak of your craft and your trade. Getting things done is the most important factor here, okay? Oh, no, it isn't. Actually, having a good time is more important than and then all the rest. All right, let's talk to Joni Beck as a group. I want to bring this back now and get us all on stage together here for a minute. We're going to embarrass you a little, Joni. How's that? Is that okay, dear?
I don't see her anymore.
She's there. She's there.
Okay.
Welcome, Joni. Good to have you on, babe. Open your mic up, hon. Nope, we're still not getting you through, hon.
Okay, now can you hear me?
There you got it.
Okay, I had to unmic it.
All right, what I propose at this point is to use our getting together kind of like we've done in the past. I think the best thing we do is visit together because we have so much in common, and we're all kind of struggling and wrestling with similar kinds of issues, and we've known each other for a long time. And what I'm hoping for, Joni, is to kind of help you with your thinking about, because I know you're wrestling with what should I do now? But, you know, from now till I'm gone, what should I do and what can I maybe accomplish? And I think the easiest part of this whole thing is for you to begin to realize that you've done all these projects and all these products that you've done with your art and your artwork and everything you've done for quite some time. And now what you want to do is kind of look at the direction of saying, well, what could I accomplish with what I've already done, and where is there a marketplace for kind of what we're working toward? I'm trying to focus everyone from hard products like your paintings and all the stuff you're doing already or have done and what we've tried to sell for so many years. I'm trying to move you now in a direction where what you sell is what you've learned then how to do. Okay?
Okay.
And Tamika's just sneaking in and out of my show. Hi, babe. All righty.
Hello, everyone. Have a good night.
See ya. All righty. So when I looked at the idea of a dream carrier, I thought, well, what if it was a concept where you put one dream together and then you use some piece of artwork that you've already done. And what I'd like to do is think about in the direction that if you had just a few years left to live and you said, I'll tell you what, Lou, I like doing this the most. Out of everything you've done in art, what has been the most appealing to you over the years?
Well, I loved my paintings. That was
Okay.
my number one. But I also love carving, and
Okay.
I watch him carve, like, I can't think of his name now, and the workmanship that he does in the wood and everything, and that just turns me on. I want to do that.
Okay. All right.
I like to create something with
Okay.
it.
Have you got a subject that you like to focus on with your art, or have you just kind of whatever?
Well, I'm mostly, I like the forest. I love the outdoors. And when I'm carving and animals.
Animals. You said you liked animals. Is
Yes.
there particular animals you like?
Just about all of them, really.
All of them.
I love dogs. I love cats. Well, not cats so much, but I love horses and all. That's it. I love animals, and I
Okay.
do paintings of our animals. I've done a number of those that turned out quite well, I had to admit,
Okay.
and that turned me on. So it's between the carving and the painting of animals, and I've never really done much in carving an animal, but I like doing scenery of some sort. Whatever I
Okay.
happen to see that turns me on.
Okay. What do you think she said, Debbie? What do you think she just described? What did you get out of it?
She describes what I like to do too.
Oh, if I'd have sent both of you a script, I couldn't have done that any better.
You bet.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm glad to hear that somebody else is crazy about me.
We need to move closer to each other.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And that commonality is the reason I picked you, Debbie, is because I can see that from where I am. I see that in you as well. Anybody else spot that combination?
Yeah, Lou, I talked to Joni many times, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joni, but I think one time you mentioned that you really like to do pen and ink and then color it in with watercolors or light oils. Am I wrong there that you said that to me one time?
Yes, I did do it, but I don't know whether that's my favorite. No, I like oils in painting.
Okay.
And what that style of painting is good, but it's not one that I'm really crazy about.
Okay, what I'm getting, Lou, from what she had said, that she loves the painting and she loves the horses and dogs. If she could teach other people how to do that and write an instruction manual and do a DVD on that, I think she could sell it.
Yeah, I do too. Even a beginning type thing, Joni, because you're not an amateur at it anymore, and yet I'll bet you there's 1 million people tonight sitting at their whatever they're doing, watching the news or television or anything else. There's 1 million people out there tonight that if they could figure out that, God, I could actually learn to begin to draw animals or begin to learn to paint. Now, between both of you that are fairly accomplished artists, should someone who's never done it before go right to oil, or should they maybe learn to draw first? What do you two think?
Well, I think learning how to draw is very important because you get to learn how to compose it, how the body forms and everything, and then start to do the painting or whatever you happen to want to get into. But I think drawing is important.
Okay, now, everybody here, I want everybody's opinion. If Debbie did the same thing and if Joni did the same thing, they both decided to teach somebody how to draw, what are the odds that it would be the same approach? There would be similarities, no question. But wouldn't their approach be different for both of them?
Yeah, I think it definitely would be. Their styles are different.
Yeah.
Okay, so the style of what they present should be a little different between them. And then in the marketplace, some people will identify with Joni and her circumstance, and they'll want to buy her package, and others would be attracted to what Debbie's doing. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So it basically not appealing to everyone, but it would be more appealing to one person as opposed to another. Now, when I start talking about these kinds of, they're pretty theoretical subjects. They're real subtle, just like those little flutes on the end of that $6.99. We're talking about something that is what most people wouldn't think to do. But I can take a PDF file and I can walk over to the university tomorrow with a PDF file and I can have a book printed about whatever you want it printed on for 6 cents a page and get it done in a day. And I don't only have to print one of them. You see the difference now in some kind of printed text? Let's talk to Lance for just a minute. Lance, you sent us up your video. Lance has done a video on how to do the fish scale, or basket weave, excuse me.
Yeah.
Basket weave. Can you see where a little workbook of written material could fit with that video pretty quickly?
It would be very advantageous because you can. Some people are a little more tactile. They like to have their hands on a book and look through it and refer along with the DVD, just like your book and DVD series. I mean, that combination works better for me than just watching a DVD.
Well,
I'm not the Lone Ranger at all on that.
Yeah, I'm going to get you one way or the other. It may be the video would interest you the most, but it may be the book might interest you the most as well. And so you're basically fishing with a fish hook that's got everything on it you could possibly put on it that might be attractive to a person who does things with their hands. So in effect, what I'm doing is talking to both Debbie and Joni tonight of saying, and every one of you listening in to saying, okay, what I'm trying to get you to do here now is to develop some little product that you then can start, we can start marketing whatever that product is with all of us, so that we're not just a person going at it alone. You're beginning to see that you got to have something to sell. And then we got to package that something as good as we possibly can, theoretically and realistically, and then we price that something, and then we start trying to sell it. And when I started with this videotape with Craig and Robin, we were just thinking in terms of an 8-minute clip to go on YouTube to promote gun stock farming even more. Over the last few years, I've backed off the gun stock thing and the drill quite a lot, and yet of all the areas we've played with, there's just so much general appeal in that niche. It's scary. And I sit and think, well, what would help Craig the most? What would help Robin the most? What would help Lance the most? Everybody that is playing in the gun stock business would be now some presence over on YouTube that would help then match with the communities that we're beginning to develop. Then we can put some Google Plus pages into this whole thing, and then those of us that are interested in the gun and the gun stock related stuff could begin to make that whole little area respond even more. Then we come back and say, well, I don't know of I know we have quite a few in the motorcycle engraving world, Jay, but I don't know anybody that's kind of playing with me or playing with what we've got going on here as much as you are. But I think the same kind of thing could be a possibility for you too. When you do an event this weekend and you had a book out that had a DVD out that was sitting there that was also for sale, you'll be startled at the change in the attitude of your customers about who you are as a custom engraver. I can promise you it will just blow you away. It is really worth the extra effort. When we got that book published for Jose, now we went the old route to have Jose's book published, and it wasn't exactly a good experience. It took a ton of time, and he's not made a hell of a lot of money out of it, but we did it in the beginning days just for exposure. But he walked in when he went after Nordstrom's in Phoenix. He took that book with him and just sat it on the table. And he's asking for $100 an hour, and the lady said, "Oh, look, he's a published artist. He's a published engraver." And even though he's looking at calligraphy over here, his book over here on the spirals and guns that he carves, added credibility that is just pretty hard to buy. You can't really control it any better than that. And I'm hoping that all of you will sense and see that if there's something here that begins to work, and then it will work then for Debbie, it will then work for Jay, it will then work for Lance, it will work for all of us individually. If we just start thinking about what could I package, what could I present. Now it might be just an individual project that you do. Every one of you know I try and encourage you to put a video camera on you when you do and take stills of every project that you do. And when you do that, the odds are fairly high that even that individual product could be turned into a beginning tool to help someone else then now learn what you've learned how to do. So that would be maybe a place that you could start. What's your next project? Have you got something on the docket, Debbie, that you've not started yet, or that you're getting ready to start? Some engraving, piece of crystal, or
some engraving. I just finished a crystal bowl yesterday that has leaves all the way around. That I'm going to give as a gift when I do the TV program. I have. I'm working on metal trays for a dairy show. The lady purchased these antique metal trays that have fruits on it, and I'm painting. I didn't think I could, but I'm painting enamel paint on the fruits to make color, and then I'm going to carve out the cow head and the words for the dairy show here shortly. So.
Okay, that doesn't sound like a beginning kind of project. But
oh no.
It does sound very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And isn't it fun that you're now at a confidence level where you say, well, I think I can tackle that. I think I can pull that off. That certainly isn't a beginner. Now, mixed into your lives and everything you're going, Joni's schedule is not Debbie's schedule, so I'm not trying to overpower what you've already got in place and what you're doing to pay the bills. Don't misinterpret that. But what I am trying to do is look ahead and say, all right, I've had my show schedule since January has covered what I think are the major issues to help everyone's career flourish, to do better this year than you did last year. And in every case, if you were to bottom line everything that I've talked about, it's all exposure. Everything I go at, that's the word you never forget in the world of art. The three words you never forget are exposure, exposure, exposure. And we now have the vehicle and the mechanism to do just that. But if we had a hard product we were trying to sell, and we were going to try and sell that hard product down through Google+, there aren't enough margins in most hard products to be able to have all of us sell it. You see? So when we're going to do now with Craig's video, this new video, depending on how it splits out, because it looks to me actually like two separate hour-long videos, one how to carve it and now one how to finish it. And the finishing with what Robin has pulled into the equation is going to blow you away. You're going to absolutely go nuts watching her enhance this carving that Craig has actually done. He said yesterday he's sitting watching her working, watching the monitor, and he just but got emotional about the fact that she has pulled an element into his carving that he has not even seen before, which is, I'm so thrilled about that mixture between all of us. We're just getting miles and miles ahead here now, more than we would otherwise. But if we got to have a product that then might sell, Tammy will have it over in Profitable Hobbies. But we're going to go out and blog and see if you can't sell it to your own connections, your individual stream, and what you're playing with over here. You find someone who's interested in that, or you find someone that's interested in buying that individual product, and there's enough margin in that product for everyone to make some money. If Canva can do what they're doing and get $1 or $2 off of every person that posts on Canva and uses their machinery to make a post that they can then go put out on the stream, boy, it doesn't take long to have things add up when I've got 510,000 people looking at what I'm playing with, and I'm thinking, well, isn't that how it works? isn't that increased exposure for all of us what I think will actually do the job. So what I want Joni to do now is I'd like you to try and write down tonight and tomorrow morning what you think we said about you in this show. What did you get out of it? And I want you, Debbie, to do the same. And I want to see if each of you can kind of gather out of what we talked about tonight something that then could be a book and a DVD combination that we could then get done, get produced, and get it into a position where we could then maybe all of us sell it. Is there a subject? Is there a title? Is there a concept that you can see in this all? Now, Lance has got a little bit of a jump start on all of you because he's already done. I want you to stay right on this, Lance, and we're going to finish this on out for you and see if we can't find something. Does that make sense? Anybody got any questions?
No, but I got a couple comments.
Okay.
For Joni. One thing that I got out of what you had said, Joni, was you enjoy carving and you also enjoy painting. Combine the two.
Put them together.
That is what's been in my mind lately, that I wish I could create on wood, but then could paint it accordingly to make it a beautiful thing. Not just one color, but a beautiful.
You can, just like Deb Lindsay does.
Yeah.
Just like who?
And it's no...
Deb Lindsay.
Deb's doing a lot of that kind of combination too. And what it is pretty much, instead of a painting with a brush or painting with a palette knife, you're now going to carve and paint something together. But I'd like you to pick a subject that's pretty simple and would be a beginning place for somebody who just barely stumbled onto us. So pick out something of interest like I like pine cones immensely.
Hound dog.
A hound dog. Nobody's interested in hound dogs. Mel, what is that?
Yeah, you are, Lance, aren't you?
Don't do apples and don't do hound dogs. Let's stick to Coke.
But pine cones and Coke's so boring.
And something else. So it's a subject that you really quite like, but it's pretty simple. Like a little bouquet of daisies, or I'm looking for something that has a teaching story in it, something that has a definition, okay? We spent a fair amount of time Monday trying to figure out what to call that drawing of Craig's. Okay, and I think you can remember seeing it. He's never titled a piece, and so we finally came up with the call. It's the moose calling. He's yelling out to the other elks, or not the moose, the other elks in the crowd, the females. Hey, I'm over here, and I'm really good looking, so come this way.
I think it's something else, but anyways.
Yeah, anyway, that's another story.
Yeah. Why don't you let Lou know what you did on Saturday?
What'd you do on Saturday?
Who are you talking to?
You!
Oh, what did I do Saturday? Oh dear, I can't really.
You told me you were going to do something with Marcia?
Something about an egg.
No, that didn't turn out. Not for me. I couldn't go.
Okay.
No, I ended up with I was sick.
No, what I'm referring to, Joni, is something about an egg.
Oh, that's right. I decided that I was going to try to carve an egg again. I used to love carving eggs, but I haven't done it in quite a while, and I ran into a problem that I was using the wrong burrs. I was back into the wood, trying to carve an egg with the pieces of the burrs that I would the wood, and that really messed me up. In fact, I'm still playing with it, just a challenge to make sure I could do it. But yes, I do like eggs, but the thing that I never particularly got overly excited about it is because eggs are something that I feel that they wouldn't go looking for. But
I thought you sold one.
oh, that's right. I did that too.
Oh, geez. Silly little thing like
You're
that.
right. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How did you know that?
We
Right.
gotta do a book on how to not forget things, Joni. That's where
I
I'd
need
start.
worse than that. I need a new brain.
Gee, made money. Go figure.
Go figure.
I
Actually,
did
sold
sell
one.
an egg, and now I have got an order to do a gun stock.
Okay.
But I'll know more about that later on down the line.
So basically, we can end the show tonight by not really knowing yet what Joni should zero in on. You see how the conversation's gone all around it.
Yeah.
But we've all put these combinations of thoughts and ideas. Now what I want to have happen is everyone watch for Joni's behalf. Watch your creative stream this week and see if you don't pick up some individual signals. Now, I know I'm asking you to take from your time and try and help with Joni and point our efforts radiating right toward her. But I think we can together watch for things that now will combine with what we've done tonight. Now, if we don't do anything more with it, if we just quit, we just go on and do something else, then nothing. It's like incubating an idea. Every university has an intellectual department now, and every university has an intellectual incubator. And they call it an incubator for a reason, is that when someone has a great idea, they bring it to this group, and this group helps them monetize it. They help them protect it, they help them develop it, and they'll go out and put it into the marketplace, and then that brings an additional source of revenue into the university. And every one of them have that. Well, I'm trying to create that same incubator, that creative incubator here. You see how it ought to work for each of us, is we ought to be able to see opportunity better because we participate here, and then we eventually find we're going to be the gang that figures out how can an artist take what they already know how to do, they already love to do, and put it into a package and then plug it into social media and sell it.
Yeah.
It ought to work. It ought to be, and if anybody can figure it out, we're going to be the ones that'll figure it out.
Well, there's something
Go ahead,
else
Mel.
that Johnny needs to do, and that's all of her finished pieces that she has hanging around in store buildings, storerooms, or whatever. She needs to get photographs of them and get it up on the web in a selling platform of some sort.
See if we can't find a place to put them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options there. A lot of options there, Joni, and it would help you continue to sell what you've already produced. Why don't you go through and make a list of the things that you would want to sell and photograph them?
Okay. Yes, in fact, I've put some more things on the walls in my studio that I'm taking from hiding, so to speak.
How's the new studio coming along? You getting it finished?
Yeah, yeah. Pretty much so.
That's an awful lot of fun. That's great when you get that worked out. Anybody else had a thought? I think we've hit it pretty hard tonight, and I'm pleased with how far we've come.
Lance has been waving at flies or something, but
well, I had one thought when it was brought up that Joni, that you did some pen and ink, and I would think that in a book scenario or a workbook scenario, you would probably be just fantastic of adding patterns.
Good at that, yeah. Helping
patterns, because a lot of times you get a book and really some patterns that are added to a book are just so second rate. And I'm sure what you'd be doing just with your experience would be just fantastic. Anything, whether it's going to be flowers, animals, whatever.
I told Craig, Keith and I sat down with Craig a few years ago, and we said we need drawings for gun stocks. There's just nothing good out there. Can you do drawings? So he went after it. In a 2-year period, he did 60 drawings. He never made a dime the whole time he was doing all that work, but you can't imagine how much money he's made since then off those 60 drawings. We sell them and sell them and sell them and sell them. So how important are patterns, Ron, to the scroll saw industry?
patterns are the lifeblood of scroll saw because people can't draw.
Yeah.
And so there's books and books and books on scroll saw patterns because people know how to follow a line, but they can't draw.
There are also
So-
books and books and books on pyrography patterns.
Yes, there are.
Wood
There
burning.
are burning pen up the kazoo.
Well,
Yep.
I do have one problem. I have a problem with like the gun stocks, and I'm trying to figure out how I can learn to do this, or how can I see it being done, because where I live, it's just not very possible. I need to learn how to finish a piece of wood, a gun stock, whatever. What the steps are in doing all that. I can carve on it. I mean, I'm not saying it was a great carving, but I can carve it. But then what do I do with it? It needs to be finished. It needs to be put colors in it if that's what I want to do. But I'm not sure how to do that. I've had to have no experience at that.
Well, I can tell you a short version, and then we'll tackle that next week, maybe, in a more in-depth version. If you use oil to come in and shade and put the value into what you've carved, and then there's the fixatives that go in oil paints that tend to make them dry. Do you know what that material's called? I forget the name of it right now, but it's a clear medium you can mix with your oil, and then it makes it dry and set a little faster. It also thins it down a little bit. Then you let it dry for a day or two, and then we like mostly, depending on the grade of the gun, the wood in the gun, to use hand rub, like Danish oil, things that are a really good finish that are more of an oil substance. The spray on acrylics don't last very long, and so most of us avoid that. We try and do a hand rub kind of finish. Any of you old woodworkers got any other advice for her?
Well, rather than a woodworker, I think maybe Lance might have some ideas.
Yeah, just thinking Lance has done enough.
Is Minwax a good thing to use? Minwax stain?
Oh yeah, Minwax is a good base. That's great.
Well, Minwax comes in two different bases, a water base and an oil base.
Yeah.
Right.
I know you want to avoid the oil or the water-based stuff for a gun stock.
Definitely.
What it does, it lifts the grain, and you're going to really get into trouble. So stay with oils, and then you won't have nearly as much trouble. But make sure it's all the finish and the staining is all the same color. This is kind of what Robin did yesterday on Craig's gun. Is she used oil, but she used it more like a painting art version of staining. Most of us have used the pigment from stain to shade and tone a gun stock for a long time. We've taken the dark stains and the lighter stains and just used the pigment, which is kind of like the paste of the oil paint that you buy anyway. So we've been kind of playing all around that world for quite a long time. But boy, if you artists take what you know about doing art and enhance your carving with what you know about the process of painting, you're gonna really push your work a long way.
If you take oil paints and just dilute it down with some mineral spirits, it can almost be like a wash of color. You're still seeing the grain through it if you make it light and do a couple of coats.
Yeah, that
Absolutely.
someone
And
else
let that dry.
mentioned my pen and ink drawings, and with the pen and then the paint, and that's what you do. You take the oil and you thin it out real thin, and then you smooge it, is my word for it, smooge it on the canvas around the object, and you blend it in. There's no paintbrush on it.
Yeah.
That's done with real thin paint.
Now, see, if you use the burning pen to define your details
Yeah.
in your carving, and then it's exactly what you would do with pen and ink.
Yeah.
Should be fun. All right, gang. I think we've stirred up kind of a pot here now, and it's my intention we keep stirring the pot to where we begin to zero in a little more on what Joni Beck needs for her next few steps in her progress. But if every one of you could pick out a single subject, if you had a shot with Oprah Winfrey, and she's going to give you an hour on OWN Network to pitch and promote and do something that then you just didn't show off, you got to a point at the end where you sold something.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm always talking about begin with the end in mind. Am I not?
Yes.
And beginning with the end in mind is trying to figure that out now. If you had a shot on Oprah Winfrey Show to show yourself and your skills off, what would you want to launch and be involved with? And certainly something of a beginning nature. I think it's most appealing when you're attracting someone who's never thought about doing this before. Most of the people we cross paths with on Google Plus have no clue how neat and therapeutic what we play with really is. They've never done it, but they've always had this little tiny thread of interest, and all you got to do is tweak that a little, and all of a sudden you're into a whole new business relationship. Okay? I'm not plugged up to power. I'm plugged up to battery, and I got to go. Okay, I'll catch you tomorrow night, gang. Thank you for being on. Make some notes now. Don't let this go. Let's do something with it. Let's push this a little bit further. Every time you get a little thought and an idea, use like a butterfly net and help for Joni. Okay? Good night, all of you. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow night.